Carlos Alcaraz gets a big warning from former world number one after US Open glory. It turns out that following Carlos Alcaraz's 2024 Wimbledon triumph, former world number one Mats Wilander offered a cautionary note, not after the US Open. Wilander emphasized that although Alcaraz achieved extraordinary success at such a young age, the real challenge lies ahead, comparing his trajectory to his own and Bjorn Borg's burnout in their mid-20s. That said, the big warning theme fits perfectly. I'll craft a vivid, imaginative narrative reflecting both that warning and Alcaraz's recent US Open victory in 2025, where he reclaimed the world number one ranking and secured his sixth Grand Slam title. The measure of immortality. Carlos Alcaraz stood beneath the bright Madison skies of Arthur Ashe Stadium, his breath rising in white puffs as he looked to the horizon of his future. The current, sheer triumph. At just 22, he had once again ascended to the summit of tennis, clutching his sixth Grand Slam trophy and reclaiming the world number one spot with a dominance that left even the most fervent critics hushed. But in the nearly blinding glow of success, a voice echoed from the past, cool, wise, and unmistakably wary. It was Mats Wilander, a former world number one who had dazzled the sport decades earlier. He watched Alcaraz's meteoric rise with admiration and with caution. Once, Wilander and the legendary Bjorn Borg had raced into the stratosphere only to bane out, their careers rattled by the weight of expectation. Now, he saw the same rapid ascent in Alcaraz and warned him, the hardest part has just begun. 1. The echoes of greatness. In that moment of glory, Alcaraz could almost hear Borg and Wilander speaking through the shuttlecock, about crowds roaring like tidal waves, about expectation crushing the tender flame of joy. He trained under pressure. He'd fought back from the brink in matches that stretched into the unknown. But had he been prepared for the invisible forces about to close in? Strength, the crowd would say. Consistency, his coaches demanded. Legacy, whispered the media. What they did not mention was the weight of hope, the kind that cracks shoulders, even while widening smiles. 2. The court beyond the lines. At the press podium, Alcaraz clutched his sixth Grand Slam with an alien calm. He had conquered Sinner in 4 sets, 6-2, 3-6, 6-1, 6-4, reclaimed world number one, and affirmed himself as the second youngest man in the Open era to reach that many Grand Slams after Bjorn Borg. But somewhere in the fans' cheers, Wilander's words lingered, like half-remembered music. You've climbed high, but now the true climb begins. It wasn't about winning. It was about lasting. 3. The weight of tomorrow. Wilander's warning wasn't a prophecy. It was a map. Expectation. Every volley, every serve would now be scrutinized, turned into headlines. Fatigue. Alcaraz would have to defend titles he had yet to even plan for. Identity. Was he still Carlos, the boy who played for love? Or Carlos the number one, the beacon of a generation? These were challenges outside the lines of any scoreboard. Wilander had borne them. Borg, too. And both had faltering arcs. Alcaraz now carried their shared caution. 4. A glimpse into the future. Let's fast forward. The crowd is louder. The nights are longer. The air is thinner at the top, but the fire still burns. Carlos enters the arena, not just a champion, but a young man wearing history on his back. Will he stay present? Wilander advised keeping the mind anchored, not drifting into the myths of longevity. Be in the present, not dizzy at the future. Let the trophies grow, but not the bait in. Remember that the hardest matches can take place off-court, within, where dreams become demands. This future court is unmarked by lines, requiring a new kind of mastery. 5. The greatest rival. In the lonely anatomy of victory, Alcaraz would discover his greatest rival wasn't across the net. It was time itself. Not the clock ticking for match point, but the one that whispered, "Can you stay hungry? Stay grounded." That's the crucible Wilander saw ahead, guarding the ember, stoking the flame without letting it burn his roots. 6. A quiet resolution. Back on that New York night, Alcaraz turned from the spotlight and looked skyward, where Wilander's caution floated like a silent promise. He was no longer a rising star. He was the orbit now. And orbits had to maintain balance, or they shattered. The trophy glinted, the cameras clicked, but hey, deep inside, Carlos Alcaraz made a vow. To remain present, to cherish every triumph, and to let the warning carry him, not break him. Epilogue. There's a moment in every legend's story when triumph and caution collide. For Alcaraz, That moment arrived under the bright lights of Arthur Ashe Stadium, his 22-year-old face into the roaring future. Mats Wilander's warning wasn't a shadow. It was a guidepost. Yes, you've conquered. But now, the hardest part has just begun. And in that admission lies the purest measure of greatness. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like and share. Till next time.